Hello Repliters, it's me, David Morgan, yet again with a brand new series, Replit Pro, where we're going to be talking to the developer community and showing you some of the coolest stuff that you can do with Replit to 10x your workflow. We hope. I'm here today with Ryan Mulligan, who's a developer experience engineer and an absolute Nix legend. And today we're going to talk all things Nix. Hello Ryan.
Hi David.
So, I've called you a Nix legend, but tell us a little bit more about what that means. What is Nix?
So Nix is a way to build software in a reproducible way. And it's a programming language you can use to describe software. And then it also lets you just deliver software. And I've been using Nix since 2015. And I use it to configure my operating systems and also the open source software that I write. And we use it at Replit.
Am I right in saying it allows you to completely return to a specific and complex development setup with very little fuss? Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, you can, with Nix in general, you can make a file that describes your developer environment and then save that into version control and go back to it at any time in the past. So you could go back to some old version.
Now, I'm sort of nodding away and pretending that I don't really know what it is. I've got to be honest, my knowledge isn't as in-depth as yours. But the one thing I do like about the way we use it on Replit is whenever somebody asks me if they can upgrade the version of a specific language, it's a very, very easy fix, isn't it? So tell us a little bit about how we use Nix on Replit.
Sure. Yeah. Every REPL that you make on Replit is powered on the underlying layers with Nix. So if you find yourself in a REPL, this is, for example, the example Python REPL.
Mm-hmm.
It it doesn't look like there's anything Nix related in the default files here, but if you go to the show hidden files section here, then you can see a few files appear. One of them is .replit, which is just a generic way of configuring REPLs. But then there's also this replit.nix file that contains actual Nix expressions, Nix code for configuring what packages are available in this REPL's development environment. And so this file has a list of dependencies here. That's what deps is short for. And these are packages that are available inside of this REPL. For example, it has Python 3.10, and it also has some specific Replit specific ones, like a Python debugger.
Which is really cool, isn't it? And the way you would change that would simply be typing in a different package.
Right, yeah. What's your favorite package that you like to run? Maybe we can try.
Well, should we put Postgres in since
Oh,
we've been doing work on that recently.
yeah, sure, sure. I think let's try PostgreSQL. Yeah. Okay. So when we save, or this file will save automatically, and then if we go over to our let's open up a shell. If we open up a shell, we'll see this say loading Nix environment, and now it's done. So now should have Postgres available to us. So if we do like PSQL, I think that'll do something. Yeah. So we don't have a PostgreSQL server running here, but we do have the actual binaries available here,
Yeah.
version 14.6. Delete that, it's going to detect that we changed it, and now let's try running that again. Oh, it's not available. But we do have this fancy thing here that shows that suggests versions of things that you might want to add. So if you run PSQL, and it says, hey, that's not found, but we have these different versions of it that we can try. So if we pick this one, it'll be the same as what we just did. And that installs that here. So it actually edits the replit.nix file and adds the
Oh,
package.
that's so cool. I've never actually watched the replit.nix file whilst that's been happening. That's so cool. Am I right in saying then that if I had a specific development environment that required, say, I don't know, version 13 of PostgreSQL, I could simply state that in the dependencies and it would always get version 13?
That's right, if it's available. So let's take it out again and then run this. And we can see that it doesn't have every version of Postgres. It's limited here into what you can actually do. So part of the way that works is in the .replit file, there's this Nix channel that you can specify. And we have various channels that are available. And these correspond to something in the Nix community, which you can find, you can search for packages. There's this other website you could use. It's called search.nixos.org. And for example, 2211 is a channel, and that corresponds to this stable 2211 that we use at Replit. And you can search for things here. So we can search for Postgres here, and it will give us the ones that are available. And yeah, and actually PostgreSQL 13 is available under this name. So if we were to copy this and add it to our .replit file, let's try that. Let's see if it works. Load. And now
Hey, excellent.
So let's see what version we're on. Yep, 13.9. So that's actually a different version than the default version, which was 13.3 that we were on, or maybe 14.3.
14.3, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah, or 14.6. Yeah, there we go. I only know this is an issue because we were having some trouble with connecting to PostgreSQL databases the other day because we were on version 13, I think, and 14 had some improvements which allowed it to connect via SSL automatically or something of that. I can't remember what the exact problem was now. But digging into the Nix file sorted it out quickly, which is nice. Now you showed us the channel which was stable, but there was also an unstable channel. And I know that I've recommended this a few times, but what is that unstable channel for?
Right. Yeah. So unstable is a little bit more up to date than stable sometimes. So it's a version that will have like a rolling release, and we'll update it more frequently. The Replit will update it more frequently than we do the stable channels, which will be basically stuck at a particular moment in time, minus some bug fixes and security updates. But unstable should have the latest and greatest as we've updated it. But that also means that it might change in a way that you're not expecting and break your things. So try to stay unstable unless you really need to.
I know that I was pointing people to unstable for a while when Python updated with a switch case statement, and teachers were loving that, I can tell you. But yeah, they had to go into unstable to get it for a little while. Now it's in the stable channel, thankfully. So that's a very quick crash course. But could you talk us through what the rest of the settings in the file are? I can assume what the end argument is there, but can you talk us through it a little bit?
Sure, yeah. Not every replit.nix file will have an env section. Usually you'll have a deps section for the dependencies. But env is an optional section you can add that will set environment variables that will be available in your shell. So for example, here we say Python LD library path equals something. And what that means now is that inside of our shell environment, we have Python LD library path available, right? And this particular path contains a lot of different Nix paths, Nix store paths that are combined together. And this is generated by this Nix expression here, this make library path, which pulls the library folders out of all of these different packages and makes them available inside of this environment variable. And then these other ones are also specified here. And the nice part about making environment variables in the replit.nix file is they will get updated when you update your Nix channel. So you won't, you'll still be referencing something that is like a valid thing in the Nix world instead of maybe losing the path of it.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for showing us this. How can a developer use Nix to 10x their workflow?
I would say the main thing that it does is, Nix in general does, is it lets you specify all your dependencies. You'll often find a new project, an open source project, and it'll have a long README file that will contain many, many things that you need to install. Apt-get this, apt-get that, run this command to change the state of your computer, so on. Lots of lines like that. And Nix can get rid of that for you. For example, if our project has this replit.nix file in it, anyone who forks this will get the right version of PostgreSQL, the right version of Python available to them, and they won't have to mess around. They'll just fork the REPL, and they will have those binaries available to them, and the run button will work right away instead of them having to do a bunch of work.
That's really nice. And is our Nix implementation something special? Because it seems to be so quick running. It's at the moment you change the text file, something's installing, something's being added. Is that usual in the Nix community, or is that something special that we've got?
That is something special. So at Replit, we've built all of the packages that are open source software that have a free license, and they're available to you um, in your REPL at no cost to you, and also no cost to your space usage. So whenever you add something here, even though we've added Postgres, which is big, it didn't count towards our storage down here at the bottom because it's on a separate disk that we make available to you. And we have lots of things on there. For example, like we can really illustrate this by adding Firefox here, which everyone knows is quite big, but we'll install it. And wow, we installed Firefox instantly. Well, that's because it's already available on this disk that we're referencing. So all we had to do is kind of just link to that instead of having to copy the files over to our REPL. They're just available. And we can run Firefox here.
And it works nicely, and it's not hitting our storage at all.
Right. Yeah. So you can. So anything that's available from the Nix packages that has an open source license is available here for you to use. And if we go look at this graph here real quickly on this website called repology.org, we can see some information about the Nix packages repository. So down here in this bottom left corner, we can see things like Ubuntu and Debian. These are versions of Linux distributions that have their own package distributions. And then we have the Arch user repository for Arch Linux here. But then up in the top right, we have Nix packages. We have a lot of packages, and they are very up to date in the Nix packages world.
That's amazing. I've always found Nix packages to be really, really good. And the only reason I know about it is because we use it at Replit, and it's just been so easy for me to customize. And I'm not a professional developer. I taught it for 20 years, so my knowledge of current programming paradigms maybe isn't what it should be, but it's so easy for me to set something up, even if I'm going back to the halcyon days of PHP MySQL. It's not difficult to set up a classic container like that even Mark Zuckerberg would be happy with.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of software. There's over 80,000 packages in the Nix packages repository. So there's a lot of stuff in there, and a lot of stuff is available for you to use on Replit for free.
Which is fantastic, isn't it? I mean, one of the things that one of the most popular pieces of software that runs on the internet is WordPress. And we get a lot of people asking us how to do that. But WordPress is a package that's available in Nix as well, isn't it?
I think you were showing me that you had made a WordPress blog.
I had. Yes, so here's my attempt at getting my WordPress blog migrated over to Replit. Because, I pay like $15 a month to some random hosting company just to host this WordPress blog that I've had for, I don't know, 15 years or something. It's a long time. And actually putting it in a REPL would be much better for me because I would update it a bit more. And this is just the Nix file. It's bringing in PHP 7, which I know is not the most modern version, but it's the one that this version of WordPress works on. We've got the WordPress command line interface. I don't know what less is, but it seems to do something useful.
It's a command line program for paging output. Yeah.
There we go. Well, that's probably quite useful. There is a GitHub repo that talks you through the steps of how to set this up and just customize everything, because WordPress is a little bit finicky. But essentially, all I had to do was put this in the Nix file, and the .replit file just needed a little bit of tweaking, and it was good to go. A full WordPress install that I haven't quite customized yet, but I imported all my previous blog into it, and it's running there now in a free Replit container, which is mind-blowing to me.
Nice. Yeah. And you now have it set up in an even better way because you have the Nix expression for how to get all the dependencies to run it.
I do remember having a nightmare when I upgraded my PHP version on the server that I'm I'm paying for my blog. I think it just every now and again randomly would upgrade my PHP, and it killed a few of my sites once. So this feels to me like I've got a bit more control of it. If I want to upgrade it, I can go and fiddle the Nix file and see what happens myself and turn it back quite quickly if there's a problem. So yeah, like from my point of view as somebody that dabbles, it's brilliant. It solves my problems so quickly. So one of the things obviously that Nix is really good for is just having a setup that works, and that's why we've got so many templates on Replit, because we can combine different technologies and different packages in ways that are almost production ready straight away. And we're looking here, Ryan, at the TypeScript template. Is that right?
Right, yeah, this is the one for our TypeScript template. This is the Nix file for it. So you can see that when you're using TypeScript, you might want to use the Yarn package manager, ES build, and then the specific version of Node.js. For example, we're using 16 here. Then also we have some packages specific to TypeScript, but then we also have the TypeScript language server, which should make the language server available when we're editing the files in TypeScript. So if we go over to here, we can see that we have the green light down here, that we have the language server working. And then if we start typing, we see that we have, the auto completion features available here. And those are made available through the specification of this Nix TypeScript language server, and then also some configuration in the .replit file down here for the language server.
Oh, that's fascinating. Actually, there was a post on the Ask forum I looked at today, which was asking that exact question: how do I add syntax highlighting and matching to a REPL? So that sounds like that's the right place to look.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Inside of .replit, you can add language servers using these lines here.
I think the thing that most developers would want is sort of a little primer. How do they get started? In Replit, it's just creating a template, and they can tweak it by showing that Nix file. But what would be your words of encouragement? What would be your starting point for somebody that wants to get, deep into Nix over the next couple of days?
Well, yeah, I think just starting with any of our templates is a good place to start. And then if you find that you need some more software for your particular project, then try adding it here, or try typing out the command over on the command line that is relevant to the thing you want to run, and then get it. So I don't know, let's see if we can get the bat program. That's a fun one. So then we can run that and then run bat on, I ran it on nothing. So let's run it on replit.nix, for example. There we go. So now we've printed out the replit.nix file here using this nicer version of cat. That program wasn't available. We clicked that, we just did it, and now it's installed here in our replit.nix. And so now we can use it in our project. So that might be a particular development tool you like to use.
But that's a really nice thing as far as I'm concerned, because the amount of times I've been following, as you say, one of those long readmes telling me how to install something, and it says use this command, and I haven't got it installed, so I have to go down another path of finding out how to install that. And I'm sure that developers have a bunch of tools that they're used to installing, but I know what it's like to set up on a new machine where you haven't got any of your tools installed, and you've forgotten half of them because you're so used to them running in the background. Nix feels like the ultimate way of setting up exactly what you want. And of course, you could save it as your own Replit template and keep using it and updating it and just keeping everything you want in the one place.
Yeah, totally. It really short circuits that process of like getting set up with any particular tool. You just basically go and it's working. If you really want to take Nix to the next level with that, you can look into Nix OS, which is an operating system where you can configure your entire computer to fit with Nix and everything installed on it.
So that sounds quite exciting, but I'm not sure I in particular have the time, but it's very appealing. Maybe that's my weekend job. Thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for helping out and talking to us today. I'm sure a lot of people in the developer community will be excited to get their hand on Nix now and start playing around with what it has to offer. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.